When I was a young Five Nights at Freddy's fan, fresh off the hype of the original 4 games, I had an idea. And that idea developed into George and Friends, a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game concept. However, I wanted to lean more into the aspect of killer robots. Not something that was ever made for childlike entertainment, but something that was made for a far darker purpose. And with this in mind, I took to designing 5 animatronics that would terrorize the player. Animatronics built with monstrous weapons and terrifying forms. George resembles a large navy blue gorilla with a gold necklace, some spiky bracelets, camo pants, and lastly, some purple spiky cleats. He is the leader of the group of animatronics and is characterized as a reporter. He reports for his specific show, which showcases fellow animatronics Lily the Lizard and Louie the Lion doing a performance in which Lily will jump out of her barrel of water and through Louie's hoop. Louie resembles a humanoid lion, yellow in color with a brown mane. He has a crown, a royal cape, and wields a single gold hoop, in which fellow animatronic Lily the Lizard will jump through for the George's Funland arcade performance. Louie is in quite a bit of disrepair. A lot of his endoskeleton is exposed, with bits of his shell being completely torn off. His left arm is missing at the elbow joint, and he does have quite a bit of blood splatter on him, as if this animatronic has been up to no good as of late. Lily Lizard resembles a horned chameleon, with its jaw being broken. The chameleon starts off inside of its water barrel, in which it will proceed to climb out of and jump through Louie's hoop for the show at the George's Funland arcade. Well, her leader, George, reports on the scene. It should also be made crystal clear that Lizzie sports a pair of drills as her chameleon spikes, which I had considered using for her jump scare animation, in which she would drive these into the player's body upon death. Slash resembles a hedgehog, brown in color. He sports various sharp-pointed spikes on his head, back, and shoulders. He has a small tail, sharp-clawed feet, a single mitten-like hand, whereas the other hand is a constantly rotating drill. He has glowing red eyes, which are very expressive, and he has sharp, serrated, rodent-like teeth. He sports a green arc reactor in his chest and is very articulate. He is always in a broken down state. However, if you do not look at the cameras in his area very often, he will become active and will kill you. His jump scare was originally going to be him biting the character. However, I feel like that was rather stupid, as he's got this big obvious drill which could have been used for the kill animation. Lastly, we got Doomsday Dino. Doomsday Dino has her own sort of mini theme. She is relegated to one room in which is designed to look like a jungle. She has a small stage in which she would perform popular pop songs, as she is designed to be a pop singer. She is probably the most pristine of the animatronics, having a lot of her outer casing just fully intact, and is hardly damaged at all. She is designed to be able to rush the office, sort of like Foxy in FNAF 1, and can be seen wandering around the entirety of George's Funland arcade during gameplay. Doomsday's jump scare is probably the most cinematic of the jump scares. I put a lot of thought into this because, I mean, she is a giant dinosaur, so you gotta do something crazy with a giant dinosaur. So, her jump scare would have been that she would have appeared in the window, specifically the right window, and she would have appeared in full display at the window, in which she would have lunged through the window, breaking it, and then violently mauled the player, killing them. Going into some more concept art here, kind of getting a grasp of how things would look and work. You can see Slash here, he's not operational. As you can see, the eyes are not lit up, and neither is the weird arc reactor, which looks like a computer play button for some reason. You can see two arcade cabinets, and you can see two characters coming out from behind the corner. Those two characters have a name, but I don't remember the name of it. It's been so long. You can see doll room number 2 here, with a character known as Dollface, and you can see a tent in the back. Really bright colors, definitely not as dark as some of the other places we'll go to. But there's Dollface, one of the more human-looking characters. Doll room number 1, you can see it's just in such disrepair. You got dolls and animatronic parts hanging from the ceiling. You can see the drywall is just ripped off, revealing bricks, and for some reason there's an endoskeleton there. I don't know whose endoskeleton that is. In the upper right corner, you can see one of the enemies just kind of coming down. It's that same doll character that was coming up from behind the corner in the arcade picture. Next up, you can see the maintenance room with a character I haven't really talked about yet, and that is Batty. He's a vampire bat, and he's basically the Springtrap insert character for my game. You can see some more movement here of Batty and Ronald. So there's the bat and the rat, and they're kind of running down the maintenance halls. Looking really cool. You can see some more artwork of Batty, and he's leaving the maintenance tunnels, kind of wing crawling across the ceiling. You'd imagine a bat would do that. Really cool looking stuff. Definitely one of my favorite shots. See some blood splatter on the floor. And here is some just generic concept art of Batty the Vampire Bat. Just looks really cool. He's wing crawling once more. And he wrote, "Know my past and fear it," with his claws on the ground. Just really cool stuff. Now, after doing some digging through my old drawing boxes, I did find some other stuff talking about that doll enemy I was talking about earlier, which I didn't remember the name of until now. It's called Cripple. It used to be two dolls known as Ashley and Crypt. One of them was a lumberjack, and the other one was just a generic doll. Ashley was designed to be a friendly, child-sized, interactive playmate, and can talk to her other pal upon meeting Crypt or Cryptid. She suddenly had changes in dealing with trouble. Crypt was inspired by a mean lumberjack and lives up to his design. Crypt does not like people touching him and constantly tries to bite little kids' hands off and stab them with his plastic axe. Staff members have tried again and again to get rid of him, but he always comes back in the morning, grinning with a smile. Now, it's made pretty obvious. I designed these two characters to be mirror opposites of one another, so when they would eventually become Cripple, it would lead to a very interesting character. Cripple was once two separate dolls by the names of Crypt and Ashley. When the doll room first opened, children ripped the two dolls apart, breaking them. One night, Crypt and Ashley decided to become one to seek Crypt's vengeance. Ashley agreed to help only if Crypt didn't hurt the kids, and soon they became known as Cripple. By the time Ashley found out that Crypt had lied, it was too late. She had no choice but to help him with his evil plans. One of the things I kind of played with between the two characters being kind of fused together is obviously Ashley's very nice and friendly, and Crypt is not. Crypt just wants to hurt people and just be evil. So I thought that'd be really cool, and even with some of the drawings I drew of them, it just shows Crypt trying to, threaten or even hurt Ashley to doing what he wants, which I thought was really cool to play with, having these two characters that are connected, but also, don't like each other or are opposite of each other. Next up, we probably have the worst piece of concept art, which is the office. You can see there's two windows and two doors. One door is actually bolted shut, and then we have the main door, which is sort of like a hangar door, which obviously Batty is shown coming through and presumably ready to attack. There's a burger and a drink on the side of the table, and you can see Ronald and Doomsday in the far right corner. And you can see sort of a little bit of that scene I talked about earlier with Doomsday, of her breaking through the glass to kill you. Whilst I have talked about some of the other locations and animatronics to some degree, I've only briefly brought up the characters Ronald and Batty. Ronald resembles a wind-up rat. He's a withered old animatronic rat, and his sole purpose is to find the key to the downstairs control room where they keep the scrap animatronic parts and the most dangerous animatronic, Batty the Vampire Bat, who is his master. The one way to stop Ronald from obtaining the key and freeing Batty from the maintenance room downstairs is by shutting the vents that are located right above where the key is on the wall when it appears, which will stop him from being able to grab it. Batty was once a human known as Dan Dixon, who died in a horrible accident at the Funland arcade while he was testing the spring locks on Batty the Bat. Batty the Bat now lives with the soul of Dan Dixon, who craves vengeance for his death. I set Ronald and Batty up to be some of the scariest animatronics in George and Friends simply because Ronald works directly against you, grabbing the maintenance room key to free his master Batty and basically clap your cheeks. Once Batty is freed, you're pretty much relegated to watching the cameras as this man just slowly comes over to your location, ready to clap your cheeks into infinity. The game runs similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 1, where you start at 12 a.m. and work all the way until 6 a.m., beating that specific night. So the only way to really stop Batty from killing you is if, by some miracle, you manage to keep him away from you until the very end of the game, in which, if it turned to 6 a.m., it would immediately stop Batty from progressing to kill you, and you would just win that night. Otherwise, Batty is pretty much unstoppable once Ronald brings him the key. And of course, we have the layout of the map, of course, George's Funland Arcade, and the location of each of the cameras. Now, I was planning on having this be sort of a free roam game, sort of pioneering the idea before inevitably Steelwool would team up with Scott Cawthon to create Security Breach. So this is way before any of that was a glimmer in Scott's eye. I had the idea of doing this kind of free roam where you could realistically walk around the location and encounter different animatronics. However, there was collision where if you would get too close to the animatronics, it would trigger the kill animation and they would kill you. It would be unique to just walking around compared to the office kills. And whilst there is free roam, you would have to do most of the gameplay inside the office because there are things you have to do there. Specifically, the key. You don't want Ronald to get the key because if he does, then, Batty comes and your ass is grass. The story of George's Funland Arcade is basically a trap. You are a night security guard, and you've been hired to protect George's Funland Arcade. Unknown to you, it's actually a trap meant to trap you inside the pizzeria and have the animatronics kill you, because this is actually not a fun place. This is not a place to have fun and to be with kids. This is actually a secret military installation where they test weaponized robots, which is essentially what George and Friends are. Now, George's Funland Arcade was something that existed in-universe. However, the military bought it out once it was abandoned and used all of the animatronics to create weaponized robots. And that's why the animatronics are so bloodthirsty during the events of the game, is because they're not designed to entertain children anymore. They've been rebuilt and reprogrammed for war and to kill people, which is why they're coming after you throughout the course of your 5 nights at George's Funland Arcade. But with that being said, of course, I never actually did any work on this game. I did try to do some rendering and some modeling for some of the characters in the game, but I quickly realized that animation was quite hard, and my small, fragile little mind wasn't going to be able to grasp it. So I just kind of forgot about it But now looking back on this, I think these are really cool. And if you're into animation, if you're an indie video game developer, I highly recommend pick some of this stuff up, make it into a game. I would be super happy if you did. Just give me credit in the game. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Do take care, and I'll see you in the next video.